In our business, information is king. We give it the royal treatment by ensuring that we source it from the most important channels, from broadcast, print, online, and social media. We use it to find connections between digital conversations and mainstream media coverage. Essentially, insights that will match your communication objectives. So, from January to June 2016, we decided to look at coverage and conversation trends in the Philippine banking industry. And here are the 5 key insights we discovered. Key insight number 1. Forums are part of the top 5 channels. Online news websites, Facebook and Twitter were actually the top 3 channels. But because they claim massive reach, it's not a surprise. I mean, Facebook alone already closes in on 1 billion active users monthly. 50 million of that come from the Philippines. Forums, on the other hand, is one of the earliest platforms to allow people to talk online. It's no longer as mainstream as the others, but it still has a steady and pretty dedicated following. You can actually say that it's because of forums, people have become comfortable interacting online. Just look at how social networking sites are designed now. You can see that how it looks and how it works is largely patterned from forum threads. What we now know as viral posts used to be coined as top threads. For the banking industry, we see that forums enable direct, even intimate discussions among netizens. People like to talk exhaustively, and from there, you see a wide range of discussions. You get very general topics with people talking about the things that they love or hate about their banks. A good number would compare the services they get or products they prefer. And it can also be very specific, like threads dedicated to comparisons on credit card fees or maintaining balance for deposits. The best part of forum conversations is that it's largely organic and not like your run-of-the-mill complaint or rant. Forum posters and commenters take the time to dissect preferences. In fact, more experienced clients provide good recommendations that fellow netizens take a cue from. Because forums have been there for such a long time, you rarely find case studies or best practice stories that highlight the importance of the channel, which really overlooks the long-standing following that forums have, not to mention their sizable user base, which are normally more focused and dedicated than what you can get from mass media channels. Pinoy Exchange, one of the largest forums right now, has at least 7,000 members. Pinoy Money Talk Forum, a place dedicated to the financial sector, has 30,000 members. For marketers, this could be a missed opportunity. That said, banks should consider using forums to engage with their digital publics. There's a lot more to gain by going where conversation is, and forums is one of those underrated areas. Forums will allow to have more direct interaction with your customers, potential and current. You also have the chance to be more relatable when it comes to your products. In fact, banks in other countries actually sponsor or build their own forum spaces, similar to how we have Facebook pages now. One good example of this practice is American Express Open Forum, housed in part by their website. What's even more critical is that by participating on forum threads or simply monitoring conversations, you can avoid the spread of wrong information or do an early spot of potential risks. Key insight number 2. The bank service categories that were most visible were accounts, mostly ATMs, credit cards, and after sales. Available ATMs and where they can be found is a main conversation focus. People are also keen on how much interest rates banks offer or how competitive they are, what kind of service fees are there, and minimum balance requirements. Transaction limitations also appear to be a concern, and availability of physical branches. Freebie offers are very popular, as well as ease in opening in accounts. For credit cards, a wide array of card types were talked about. That includes reward cards, specialty cards, frequent flyer cards, and others. What resonated in the conversations though are what people look for in a credit card or what they appreciate from the ones they already have. These are, number 1, value. The bang for buck of credit cards rank high. People want the credit card they have to have a good return for them in one way or another, which totally makes sense when we look at the next top considerations, which are promotions associated with credit cards and rewards they get from frequent use. prestige came in as fourth, with people taking pride when they get awarded a premium credit card. They beam even more when they get it from multiple banks. Interestingly, security closed the top 5 concern points for people when talking about credit cards. This tells us people are quite keen to spend and spend more when they have the right card with them. Now, with after sales. This is all about your client experience. Much of the conversation target bank's presence in social media channels, followed by branch banking and phone banking. Of the three, obviously, after sales received the, most flavorful of interactions from the digital publics, which leads us to key insight number 3. Complaints on banks center on its accessibility, speed of service, and frontliners' professionalism. Because digital networks are so available, complaints easily run online. But to be fair, there's also a number of banking clients who express pride for the banks of choice and gratitude for service well done. People get irate the most when access is not easy. Whether there's a downtime with an ATM machine, hotline, or online banking channel that was without advice. People take in the idea that these channels, which were made to be available on demand, are really not. And that becomes an issue. This also largely influences the top 2 complaint item: speed, particularly when talking about response and action time from frontliners. And by the time a response is supplied, people tend to be more critical, and that is how top 3 become a point of concern. Professionalism is based on heavy target when unsatisfactory responses from banks frontliners come about, whether offline or online. Now you can say that combination of these complaints are commonplace. They're not new to you anymore, and that's true. Some of you may even be used to it already. But you have to admit, it can still be irritating and ultimately a not so helpful building block when it comes to brand equity and reputation. From our experience, a proactive stance almost always does the trick. And ideally, you do this by humanizing the service process. Taking the time and putting a friendlier spin to explain how certain bank processes can better people's understanding of bank processes and have them appreciate turnaround time for transactions. Popular applications of these include interactive workflows, a simple yes or no diagram, and the equivalent consequence. Animated step-by-step guides also help make the process more accessible. PayPal, as an example, were amongst those that were heavily bogged down by negative noise and invested in transforming its communications. It launched an Ask PayPal handle. They used more visual-driven channels like Pinterest, Instagram, and YouTube. They shifted their storytelling from firefighting to elaborating on customer benefits, showcasing testimonials, and investing on their brand advocates. In the end, PayPal's online face changed. Metrics-wise, they received a 327% increase in engagement, 207% improvement in sentiment, and 329,000 new fans. They've redirected the negative noise associated to them to more interesting life stories, particularly what people appreciate about PayPal and what more they can do with it. Mind you though, the negatives are still there, but the more relatable stories gave them a different face, a friendlier, a more approachable one. Key insight number 4. What banks talk about and what people talk about have similarities, but the tone could use some alignment. One of the surprises we got while doing this study is that digital audience is not as sophisticated as what we theorized it to be. I mean, for one, we expected talks about wealth management, but then we saw that spending, at least value spending, still tops the discussions. This whole idea about spending and value tells us that people want products and services that fit their lifestyles. And from the banks, it could do well to simplify the message so that other offerings can be taken in a brighter light. One of the lauded practices in digital marketing was Bank of America. Its tips, facts, and cashback campaign was lauded by US marketing agency Grafton as incredibly user-friendly. And it's true! Instead of communicating by product, they communicated by customer question. There are step-by-step guides, tips, info videos, and packed in with promos. Monument Wealth Management takes this simplification even further, boasting a blog that makes use of pop culture. Banks have the power to dictate the mode and keep the digital audiences interested. But as with all companies, it's critical that we try to speak their language as close as possible. And finally, our key insight number 5 is that media reports have heavy influence the trend of overall discussions. What this tells us is media and brand initiatives have the upper hand in commanding attention and consequently driving conversations. It also tells us that not a lot of organic conversations are coming from digital audiences when it comes to talking about banks and its products and services. In fact, when praising a bank, people most associate it to the company itself more than the products or services offered. This tells us 2 things. 1. Banks have the opportunity to create content that will motivate people to be more engaged. And 2. Banks must always keep their ears open and always be listening, always monitoring. When it comes to content, you want to rise above the clutter. That's why there has been a lot of literature on how good content is leveraged on. When you listen to your customers, you arm yourself with ideas on what to use as part of your content. Use what your customers say as a means to shape your communications, and in turn, maximize the response you get out of it. Listen and find a good connection. Use the right words and show the right visual and gain better engagement. While you cannot prevent all crises or criticism, listening allows you to be on top of what's happening, good or bad, to know who are the best influencers and the worst critics, to know who amongst your satisfied customers can be your advocates, and just understand what makes people excited or otherwise. Take what you can from these and use it to your advantage. Keep on listening and communicate better. This is Lady Ochel Espinosa, Icentia's Associate Insights Manager. Thanks for listening and have a good day.